Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's a happy Sunday here from Nashville, Tennessee, and wanted to welcome all of you who've been here on a weekly basis with me, studying this amazing book, "Wake Up and Be Happy." And we are here today to continue a review and discussion of this amazing work by our spiritual author and mentor, Joanna de Angelis. If this is the first time you're here, just so you know, this is actually a series of 17 books. This is right smack in the middle, book eight of that psychological series that is known by spiritual author Joanna de Angelis, with a psychography by Divaldo Pereira Franco, the Brazilian medium. Today, we're almost at the end. It is with a sinking heart that we're only three chapters away from the end of the book. And I wanted to say, if you have not seen it, all of these discussions are in our channel on YouTube. It is called Solitude Center for Spiritual Living, and you just check there for Wake Up and Be Happy. But, anyways, today we'll discuss chapter 28, and it is called Evolutionary Mechanisms. One more thing that I wanted to say to you, and I say this often, maybe too often, but I just want to say that um, these books, specifically, the discussions contained in not only this book, but the entire psychological series, they focus on this sense of reflection and provocation to look at yourself, to ourselves, and just reflect upon, meditate upon our problems, our conflicts, our challenges, anything that is part of our day-to-day life, of how we define ourselves, and really understand our complexities, our nuances, and what makes us what we are, right? So I encourage you to read the entire book and let me know, how am I being successful or not with the interpretation of the book as I see it. But let's get started. Um, what is this chapter about, anyways? Well, it is about understanding what we're giving in order to grow spiritually. And as we get to that growth, we attain what we are calling our unending happiness, that perfect happiness that is not ours yet. So, Joanna de Angelis provides vivid images of what that process, and that process is one that requires effort. And I really highlight here, effort is the main word. And because of it, it may also require us, it may also entail us a need for, say, will, discipline, work. And sometimes part of the process is a resulting pain of all that. My most vivid image, and this is mine, not Joanna's, is is that of when someone, you and me or anyone out there, that decides to go through an exercise regimen, right? And I want to not only be healthy with a healthier, say, um, heart, but I want to also be very healthy. My muscle, everything is perfect. I want to be stronger. And I then submit myself into that regimen that requires exactly that, effort and often discomfort. But that process will lead to my desired outcome, be it the weight that I want to be the body that I want to be the stronger muscle that I want to have, right? So, anyways, I will go over the chapter in the next few minutes. And as you know, I like to subdivide. This is purely academic, by the way. This is my subdivision, so I can break down the topics in a way that makes sense to me and hopefully to you as well. The topics that I put here today are unrestricted happiness, unintended consequences, and yeah, unvigilant friends. Shall we? So, when we start talking about this really important topic, unrestricted happiness, the first notion that you find not only in this chapter or the book or the entire work of Joanna de Angelis or even the entire body of work of Spiritism, all of them, it contains the notion that the process of evolution is inevitable. It is an imperative of the law of progress, as we discussed previously in this book club series. For those of you who swim or no swimmers or have seen a swimming competition. Of course, I love the person, so I'm going to have to say here, who have seen Michael Phelps in carry on in his chest 8 gold medals, um, several Olympics ago, right? But if you know that that required swimming, right? The image that comes to us is one of discipline. And what is the discipline about? I need to learn the mechanics of swimming, but I also know this is hard for my body. So I need to ensure my effort is one that is so effective. This is swimming, my language, but it's all about swimming, right? My effort is effective and is minimized so that I stroke after stroke I can make my way toward the destination, be it the one of many laps or whatever. But if we shift that mental picture of the swimmer now no longer in a pool, but let's say on a river. And the river is, I go from one margin to the other margin where there's where I need to go. That's my harbor, right? I did my destination. And we start to, in that mental picture, we start to add elements to my journey. So I no longer have the practice and the technique and the body posture, the movements and my will to cross the pool. I now may have winds. I may have temperatures that are either too cold, frigid, or inhospitable, right? I can have waters that are not clear or maybe even be muddy. We may have critters in that river. We may have so many obstacles to include our own obstacles, our being tired, fatigued, or having cramps, or even having to deal with a stronger than usual current on the river. You get the picture. All of it, and we're trying to cross the river. So, spiritual progress is symbolized by the distance that separates the swimmer from point A to point B, from where he or she jumped, right, to cross the river, to the harbor or the other margin where the swimmer wants to go into dry land. Our lives is often full of obstacles, but in the process, quote unquote, swimming toward our goals, we actually acquire certain things, and this is the positive, right? We those are what we call those evolutionary mechanisms. Those are what we call the tools, the resources, the improvements, and like the swimmer crossing the river, at the end of the crossing itself, no matter how many obstacles or difficulties or challenges the swimmer found, it provides the same person with stronger muscles, the ability, the experience to know what it takes to swim, and I imagine stronger hearts and lungs, right? But for us, we're not now talking about swimmers, us, our lives, our acquisitions are mostly in the area of our intellectual, emotional, and moral growth as we move through all of our, say, internal and external obstacles that we find in life. Does this make sense to you? I hope it does. So, in fact, if we think about it, what limits us, what blocks us, is what becomes, say, our, for lack of a better word, portfolio of experiences. Those experiences that will help us in the next, perhaps even more challenging goals, right? So, as Joanna de Angelis writes so beautifully, and I put it here on the screen, upon discovering life's purpose, unrestricted happiness. Yes, that's our purpose. Individuals emerge from their smallness and overcome every obstacle like a tender plant breaks through the coat of the seed where it cloisters itself to grow toward the sun that vitalizes it. Isn't it beautiful? We will, under divine and infinite mercy and goodness, we will achieve our potential toward spiritual evolution, our own, and we will reach our desired end state of that unlimited, unrestricted happiness, which I can call our plenitude, our full life. The important message is that it does not matter what obstacles in our lives we meet, we encounter. Those evolutionary mechanisms that come to our lives, right? What is important is that we must keep moving, we must keep growing, we must keep evolving. So let's keep going on our discussion today when we talk about, yeah, unintended consequences. Even success, as I said here, fleeting fame, health, domestic peace can sometimes turn into the source, the reason for our own suffering, our own afflictions. So if we think about our obstacles, our challenges, um, all difficult situations in our lives, they're part of this process of growth. And let's think perhaps of the times when we were sick, or the times when, oh my goodness, my best friend or community of friends or my family members or even those we call our enemies, they do not understand us. In fact, they misunderstand what we're all about. What about those times when, for whatever reason, things at home are not good? Maybe we have a fight, a disagreement, we don't see eye to eye, it may escalate into domestic violence, all of those things that are so difficult to each one of us, right? What about when our own bodies start to present limitations? And I say this with a smile because, what comes to my mind is that, yes, aging is a limitation, right? Aches that we go through, but also, what if I have to go through surgery? What about all the gamut of issues that this physical body will present? And beyond that, if we think about perhaps one that is omnipresent, right? Which is financial difficulties or hardships. We all have been through it. We may be going through this now. All of those things are um, that water, that river, and we need to understand that they are part of this process that we call spiritual growth or spiritual evolution. But let's think about the interesting uh, point, counterpoint here. The interesting point is that we may be fooled by those that we find in our lives that seem to have it all. So, I don't know, social media influencers, the aristocracy of Hollywood, the best entertainers are there. They do seem to have it all, and I include there all the tycoons or uh, technology visionaries out there, right? They're incredibly seem to have it all: intelligence, beauty, talent, fame. And Joanna says, "Wait a minute." She reminds us that even when we have success, fame, health, domestic bliss, sometimes those that makes us all of those famous and successful, those in there are those status that you achieve are the source of serious afflictions. And so I said I'm calling you from Nashville, Tennessee, which is in the U.S., in the southeastern part of the country, and it's known, for those who do not know, as the music capital, right? So musicians of all walks of life come to Nashville, and especially because of the large number of music studios, so they can record their next song or whatever. So I found out that Taylor Swift, if you don't know her, very famous singer, lives in the same street that I do. Yeah, can you imagine that? In fact, just a block away. And I immediately start to imagining, oh, it would be cool if I going for, I don't know, grab a cup of coffee in the coffee shop in the corner, and I bump into her, or going to work, whatever. And right, I said, it would be cool. And I said, actually, probably not. I don't believe I'll ever meet her, bump into her, because as I think about it, and this is in the context of this discussion, right? Her life, which exemplifies the life of many famous musicians, as we know, is a life of touring, moving from place to place, staying at hotels, excuse me, when coming home to be my neighbor. They're probably recording nonstop in their studios, and this is probably why she has a place here in Nashville. And those recording, studio recording may take forever, long days, long nights. And even when she is to have a break, she probably, I imagine, has all sorts of bodyguards and maybe even discussing herself. So people like me won't go like, oh my goodness, that's Taylor Swift. Well, this is interesting enough, and I'm sorry, I have a cough. When all things are good, right? When they are good, which means she has attained a status quo, which requires a certain level of keeping up with the own status quo, and you work and you work and you work some more. And as I said, this is when things are good. When things are not so good, what are some other consequences, some other unintended consequences of that type of life? So let's think. If I am famous, yeah, and I may be rich, but I may also lose it all. What happens? Uh, if I am rich and famous, and wealthy, and I may not lose it all, but I may be the target of so much envy that anyone in this day and age of social media, right? But to include the social, not just the social medias, but news media outlets may tarnish my reputation. Let's get away from Taylor Swift and all those famous entertainers. But what if I am just happy? What if I am intelligent, uber intelligent, I would say, or extremely beautiful, or extremely wealthy? Does it mean that I am guaranteed a beautiful, wonderful life? No, absolutely not. Most likely, I am just like you. I have fears, I have anxiety, I'm prone to depression, but most likely I am less able to encounter empathy from others because I seem to have attained a platform that makes us less prone to what ails everybody else. I know. We need a break. If for good or bad, we're all suffering. And just to quote or to refer to the British poet John Milton, he wrote that fame is the spur that raises the enlightened spirit in order for it to try harder, yes, and work more, yes. And finally, when it is ready to enjoy it, this is John Milton. It is a Fury's aboard shears that slit its success and thin spun life. Oh, poor Taylor Swift. Oh, poor all successful, hardworking entertainers, famous people out there. But let's go back to the topic of evolutionary mechanism. We see those examples are here to remind us that we should never ever fool ourselves. We will not achieve our happiness without effort. We will not achieve peace either without tears, without pain. And those are simply put part of the process of self awareness. We are reminded that Earth, our home, is a school for spirits like you and me. We are imperfect spirits, and we're in fact just embarking in this lifelong learning that we need to go to. But let's keep moving. And we close our discussion here today when we talk about invigilant, excuse me, friends. And Joanna brings the figure of Gandhi, so Mahatma Gandhi, in his flagship battle to teach us nonviolence as he destroys the British Empire, right? Or to unblocks that relationship between the British and the Indians. And excuse me, he stated that if he were not to be killed, he would have failed in his own crusade toward nonviolence. And when you read that, you start to question Gandhi. What were you thinking about it? But at the same time, it really teaches us how prescient he was, not only in knowing that he would be killed, but to understand the foibles of human life, this existence, and all the process that it takes for us to include in this kind, in this way, martyrdom, right? He killed to demonstrate what was there at peril. But we can, beyond Gandhi, we can also think about all those what I call messengers of God, those missionary spirits that came to this life on earth, and yes, they brought amazing things and they suffered. And they suffered mostly, if you look at the stories or history, that they were attacked by those who collaborated with them, who turned against them. Yes. And Joanna tells us, right, we can never, ever, ever forget that our friends may indeed become our worst adversaries, right? Simple example of that may be if you have a divorce and the person that one day you promised to love and obey and forever happiness become your worst enemy through the dissolution of that promise that you once held together, right? But we can also think, as I say in the screen here, Jesus, right? Jesus was not betrayed by his enemies. He was betrayed by his unvigilant friends. So it is up to us to live in a way that we're prepared to deal with all sorts of things, problems, that we need to solve them. And we need to treat our bodies when we get sick. We have to do all of this. It's part of the journey. And Joanna tells us simply, let us be prepared for that journey. Let us be the one who remain serene amid violence or any other innumerable types of crises that come to our lives. Let us be silent when we are the target of very loud accusations. And when we're in the middle of a, I don't know, a very, very terrible situation, whatever that may be, let us exemplify goodness. Let us exemplify harmony, right? Let us never, most importantly, here in this message, let us never abandon our goal just because we're suffering difficulties. We all are there. So my final words are, let us be effective, prepared, vigilant swimmers getting to the shore of safety and happiness. Thank you. Thank you for being here with me today. We'll meet again next week when we'll discuss chapter 29, survival and liberation. I appreciate you being here with me today. Goodbye.